A, that was nowhere near, and B, there's definitely only one of me.
There's only ever one Timothy Lever, and there's only one more series to go for today. BDS versus Eminem. We're into another one of these screamer games in the later stages of the qualifiers towards the major, and I can't wait to see which way this one boils down. I won't lie to you though, Tim, looking at the map veto, I feel bad, but this feels like a 2-0 for the French to me.
I would agree. I sort of saw the maps and thought very similar. Is it definitely going to happen? I don't think so. We're at that stage in the competition where things just get difficult. To you know, Ian said it earlier, you're in a semi-final. You've got two teams that are very evenly matched, generally speaking. You know, they've both earned their place here. So neither of them are going to come out and just roll over. However, BDS on Clubhouse, I know Fresh touched on it there. They've not necessarily kept up, you know, the form of old on there recently, but it's still BDS on Clubhouse, and you just feel like they're going to come out and have a really good game there. And then the BDS on Cafe, they beat Eminem there 2 weeks ago, 7-4. So like, I look at that and I just think, ooh, I would agree that I can see a path to a 2-0 for BDS. However, that said, Eminem, if they can get those front three that we talk about so often, Tyrant, Users, Solotov, all firing up to speed here on Clubhouse particularly, it could be a different story, and we could have an absolute barn burner of a skyscraper in store.
Won't lie, Tim, I feel like I've just seen a purple tiger in the wild there during that veto phase, because we saw Shaiko typing in English. That's something I don't think I've ever seen before. He's normally one of the quieter players. I've only ever really seen him speak in French. But here we are, a little bit of banter between the two teams to get things underway. As you can see, it is BDS starting on the defensive side. I'll come back to the old meme I always used to say about BDS on Clubhouse when it was their go-to bread and butter map. The only way you knew this team were roaming was when Alems was playing on the Valkyrie, because they always used to be the team that would sit on site and refuse to play out around the map. But you look at this lineup now that we've got. Shaiko on the Valkyrie, Alems playing on the Solis, the Fenrir as well. They can get busy around the map if they really feel the needs be. Renshuri, you'd expect to see more back towards site, but they have got options to be at least slightly aggressive here, have a couple of players off site and try and slow Eminem down. We saw Club just half an hour ago, and we saw exactly the same thing there happening for Wolves. They were looking to take control of the map and really try and slow VP down. Obviously, it didn't really work, but the idea is you don't give a team 3 minutes to set up for a basement execute, because they will tear you apart when it comes down to that.
Well, I was just waiting for the peak there. He can play off the shadows on that door a little bit. Nearly catches the Capitao of Tyrant as he strafes across the doorway. He's going to keep himself safe, but Alems, I thought he'd maybe just been caught out there, but manages to wriggle his way free before that breach gets opened up. So Nello's just going to hold his position, going to get aggressive here, actually. Sends in the flash through the drone hole. Can't quite find his man. Alems is going to hold on for now. No, he's not. Tyrant going to shut him down from underneath. That's well played from Eminem.
That's going to feel like a real stinger, because Leaky Fat was there as well, waiting, but ironically leaking there on the defensive side, and just seeing Alems removed at the top of red for all but free. Sure, you've wasted about 60 seconds and chewed through a couple of drones as they rolled their way over, but so far all you've done is donate a couple of freebies over to the side of Eminem, as now Leaky Fat falls as well. Shaiko playing in a little bit of a ratty position up oil, but outside of that, Eminem in full control of this round and showing no signs of slowing down.
Not a great start from Eminem. Love to see it, teamwork together, just sectioning off, dealing with, you know, maybe we're seeing why BDS historically on this site are a turtle team. We wouldn't normally see them, as you said at the beginning, out on their own. They quite often be downstairs. I think that's where Shaiko's going to have got himself back to now. He will be in his typical blue position. He is going to find the Nitro onto Tyrant, and this is always the danger against BDS. Shaiko gets himself into these power spots, and you feel like, yeah, we're 5 versus 3, we're really cruising on the round here, we're really setting up to get this one, and then all of a sudden that kill feed lights up, and it's Shaiko, it's Shaiko, it's Shaiko, and the round just starts steadily turning. Will that be what we see over the next 40 seconds?
Well, knowing you're in a 5 versus 3 here, Eminem M&M surely have got to have been fancying their chances to get the round closed out. But you can see this collection of orange forming on the west side of the map. Moto being one side, main stairs being the other. Solotov has already dropped through here, pinned out by the Fenrir, breaks open that Dread Mine, and now has some clear vision through in towards the site. But with only 20 seconds left, M&M are at serious risk here of simply running out of time when this execute comes on through. Solotov finds one, Renshiro in for the swing, doesn't manage to connect anything. It's looking like M&M should be able to get the job done, but never say never.
That does start to go down, as does Shaiko. Nello managing to find those shots. One picked up by Breeder, but there will be no more. Solotov picking up that final kill, and that's going to be MNM taking round 1, and a good win on what can be a difficult attacking site down in the basement. We'll see on round 2 whether BDS are going to move things along or whether they're going to double down and try and get that one done. I guess it feels, usually it comes down to how close do you think you were, but they obviously don't think that they were too near on that one. They weren't happy with the roam, which isn't really a surprise. It didn't go fantastically well. They lost 2 pretty quickly, and it left them short-handed. So they're going to move on to gym and bedroom for round 2.
Indeed, they are. I liked really how, even with the 20 seconds on the clock, they had this big focus on towards Moto and main stairs. And for a second, I was nervous about it. C4 sat in hand, for example, from I think it was Shaiko, sat in Arsenal. And I was just like, there's every chance here you try and make a push down, you get in C4, whether inside a church, whether from back Arsenal. There's just so much that can go wrong here. And the problem when the clock runs down to 10, 15 seconds is there are no more mistakes allowed. Earlier in the round, you can mess things up. You can go, okay, then pause for a second, back on drones, figure things out. Let's change the attack, no problem. When you've got no time left, a single mistake can be a round ender, unlike if it was earlier on. But there for MNM, I think the collection together, the kill that came in from Solotov onto Renshiro really was what opened up the room to get that execute down as well. Renshiro holds firm, you're having a very different conversation. So big shout out to Solotov there as well. 2 big kills in the round. Well, 3 overall, but those 2 that he got were the big ones.
Solotov's a player of absolute quality, we know that, but he is a player that we've sort of asked questions of recently as well. Maybe not putting up the numbers that we've always seen historically, but it just goes to show, when he is on his game and he comes in and he picks up those, important moments, it really can drive the team forward. MNM as well, I'm pleased to see sort of continuing with that objective focus when the opportunity presented itself, something that we saw against Wild as well. Happy to go in there and get that diffuser down, and hopefully we see a little bit more of that here against BDS as well.
Interesting to see BDS not repeating that downstairs site either, instead choosing to move away. It's been a while since I've seen a Maverick try and open up this single wall into Con as well. More common to see that coming in, of course, on towards the CC wall. Tends to be a little bit safer, a wider angle to play behind, but it was enough just to get in there, get rid of the mute jammer that was on it, so now we can get in and get this open. But Shaiko is ready and waiting, and as soon as that exothermic goes off, you know exactly what's coming. It's going to be a trick going on, as long as he can position it right, which indeed he can. Wall will stay closed for now, and Alems has been taken down by Solotov. What a start to this game he's having, Tim, at 4-0.
Yeah, he's going fantastically well and could be a driving force, could be a difference maker for MNM tonight. We'll see whether that happens. A reminder of the stakes, of course. The winner here will qualify to the Atlanta Major, so whoever picks it up, the loser will have another shot at it. They will play the loser from our first matchup. They'll go up against Wolves, and the winner of that will qualify as well. So there will be a second bite for those who don't win tonight, but it's all about locking it down here and now and getting yourself that best possible opportunity at the Major.
As much as the pros love playing Siege, you'll happily take the early qualification to the Major 100%. And get that stress out of the way. No, don't want to age yourself a couple more years in the process. But here, MNM starting focus off on towards Jacuzzi side. Everything opened up already. Got one on main stairs as well, so they're getting this little surround coming on. Weren't quite aware of the cheeky man sat inside of Jim here, coming out on the swing. It was Leaky Fack, and he's taken down by Nave. They've swarmed their way into a 4 versus 1. Renshiro with it all to do against every man left standing. In behind the weights, he's got 0 chance. MNM are going good, Tim.
Yeah, they're looking not just good, but they're looking sharp. They're winning a lot of the gunfights. The reason I say that is BDS is sort of, you feel like they're getting pushed into positions where they have to take fights. They are already in 2 rounds in, feeling like they have to make this challenge. They have to make a play. Leakafak onto Jim Doe there, for example, peeking onto Breach. It's always going to be a risky one, but obviously just feeling like, no, I've got to do something because, you know, we're backs to the wall here. Eminem putting BDS under a lot of pressure on a map that historically BDS have been good on. Recently, as we've said, maybe a little bit of a different form on there, but generally speaking, you'd expect them to at least come out and have a solid performance. The fact that BDS are going back to gym and bedroom again says to me that, you know, they have a bit of confidence in their defensive Clubhouse. They're saying, no, we can get this site done, so we're going to go back there again. But honestly, right now, with the way Eminem are looking, I'm not sure that they can.
They are getting run over, but equally it is early doors. You know, I always say give it a few rounds to see both teams warm into it. Also, I often say if you see a team lose 3 rounds in a row, pretty fair to expect a tactical timeout to come in at that point. You played at least 3 sites. In this case, 3 swings of the bat, 2 of the same site for BDS, but clearly something is going wrong, and you have to change something, even if it's just a wild stab in the dark. So if Eminem win here, expect that pause. If not, I think BDS are going to be really stuck. They've lost the downstairs quite convincingly, even though it did come down to the wire. They lost upstairs just a second ago, this exact site of gym and bedroom, very convincingly. Where do you go next? Like bar and stage, the off-site, you go towards Cash and CC, that is now the 3rd site, I would wager. You're out of options, essentially, then, Tim.
You are. I know a wise man who once said that there's 2 halves to a game of Siege. You know, we've always, Eminem have got to be cautious that they manage this going into the second half as well. But for now, just ride that momentum, get as many rounds as they can under the belt. They are going to be opening that breach up straight away. Renshiro holding on to Cash for the time being. Nade from underneath will not find its mark. Doesn't take any damage. He's just having a look to see if he can return fire on anybody underneath, but there will be nobody there for the time being. The drone comes in, though. He needs to be careful about focusing too much on that, because you see those orange silhouettes just starting to circle here, and it could be danger for Renshiro before very long.
He's in. Someone's crossing towards site already by the looks of it as well. They've got to be really careful of this one. Shaiko finds Solotov, and in fact, it was Solotov last time round who went hunting, but it's Shaiko biting back here. Really walked into the lion's den. There is construction. He's picked off a couple. Tyron went hunting downstairs and ran into the wrong man. Users there ready for the trade, so it's far from over just yet, but this time it looks like BDS have control.
Yeah, LM's just a little bit carried away there, but taking the opportunity to try and get back to site. Users closed it down nicely, but Eminem is still on the back foot here, and make no mistake, 2 versus 4. Nello will get diffuser in hand. They still don't really have confident control of Cash. They're flashing each other. It's just all a little bit up in the air is this round for Eminem.
It has, yeah, and let's not forget as well, this was their start on the east side of the map, and you can see why BDS were confident, I think, in their hold, that you had Lens playing on the downstairs, sitting on cams, looking to catch that whoever he could, playing off towards the wrong side of things. Did find his man, got traded out, but all the work really was done by Shaiko inside of construction. And honestly, work done by Shaiko, it feels like the kind of statement you're going to be saying every single time this man steps into the server. It's not so much a, oh, win 2 gunfights and the job's done, nice one, but a large part of it really did just come down to that. They're about to get tricked out on this wall. They are not getting this one opened up. Users has fell. Nello all by himself. Maybe Eminem here might even take that 20 seconds or so just to have that chat around what's going to happen next time, because fair chance they're going down to the basement in the next round.
Yeah, the round is definitely done here, I think, at this point. 1 versus 4, like you say, with the thermite. He's going to drop down, see what he can find, maybe pick up a kill or 2, and things can change, but if you're going to flash yourself, Nello, I don't think they're going to change for you. He's got one just on the opposite side of that gym window. There's the jump out from Shaiko out of construction window. He's absolutely dominated that area of the map in that round, and the concern as an Eminem fan watching that, you know, for those at home are going to be looking surely thinking, ooh, did BDS just wake up on Clubhouse? That was a night and day difference between round 2 and round 3, BDS defending. I said on round 2, they were being pushed around, they were cleared out of Cash quite quickly, and Eminem were able to take that ground. They were forced into tough fights on Jim Doe for Leakafak, for example, and it was just never really under BDS's theme that they were fighting. They were just reacting to Eminem, whereas there in round 3, that was a different ball game. Shaiko got 3 kills without moving himself too far out of one position, and it just looked like things were clicking a little bit better for BDS.
It did, yeah. I mean, ultimately, we'll see if it carries over into this round now to go back down to the site where they did lose to kick things off. However, I will remind once again, that did also come down to the last 20 seconds or so. So there is every chance that we can see a similar thing take place, and suddenly things look very, very different, because in that round, it was Solotov who went really well. We spoke about that earlier on as well. 5 kills across a couple of rounds. Shaiko in the last one stepping up and being the big player. I don't really want to see today become the story of the hero plays. When you see a player getting 2, 3, 4 kills in a round and really solo winning it for his team, it's exciting Siege to watch, don't get me wrong, but it does remove some of that tactical and strategical depth that we really love watching in a top-level game of Siege as well. So we'll see if it boils down to it more. What I am excited to see is Solotov on the Ram here as well. Tyrant died quite early on when he was playing on the Capitale last time around, but with all the vertical work that you can do making use of the Ram, then joined up by the Capitale afterwards for the smokes, or the fire, for example, you can see some really beautiful executes. So that's what I'm excited to see in this round.
Well, I'm just picking up the icon for a fraction of a second there that showed the Capitale was drawn in still from the garage door, so he knows that there is somebody out there, knows that he's being pushed from the rappel as well. And it's just a question now of how long does Alems hold on for in this position. We're only 50 seconds into the round. He's got himself a problem. He's going to find it very difficult to rotate out a garage, so he really needs to just play his life in there and take any fights that come his way and try to win them. Meanwhile, Solotov on the Ram is absolutely shredding the floor around Kitchen and the corridor, whilst Alems just holds his breath and holds tight, waiting for this fight to come with Tyrant.
I can sit here and hold time all day. I mean, Tyrant's going to be essential towards the execute, but is it the #1 step they need to open up right now? Arguably no. If he dies here, they lose so much of their execute capability. He is all the smoke, all the fire for them. Otherwise, it's all flashes. A little bit of hot air. Long range is there waiting, but finds his man. Beautiful pick-off. And now really he needs to be syncing up with his team and making use of this fire. Whether he chooses to join them in Kitchen or whether it's an execute through stock, just to confuse things a little bit, he is going to have a big part in this round, and it's good that he's won the gunfight and kept himself alive. He'll play a massive part in the next 60 seconds or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not a terrible job from BDS there. Liquefact helps Alems get back to site. That was at 1 minute 30, so half of the round had been burnt. I'm amazed that Alems has got out of garage without finding himself dead. So that in itself, granted they swapped Liquefact, but I don't think that's too bad for MNM. Shaiko manages to pick up Solotov as well, so that's the Ram gone, and that leaves us now in a 4v4 with 45 seconds left to go, and MNM need to be careful that they don't stall out here. They've done a good bit of work so far, but they now need to think about that final push into an execute to make sure that they're not just diving headlong into BDS's angles.
No, they love the 20-second execute, Tim. We saw it earlier on. They're going to try and go for it again by the looks of it. This time, though, more engineered around Kitchen. Last time it was that motor main stairs push. So a couple of changes, and they've got Tyrant here. I mentioned about the work he'll be doing with this utility, firing towards garage so no one can step out. However, Nath has fallen down. That is not ideal. Nello still with the fuser in back pocket, but Shaiko, it's his hero round. He's on for a 4. He's might make it a 5, but Tyrant shuts down the dream. But enough is enough. 4 kills. Secure BDS another round.
Fantastic play from Shaiko, no two ways about it there, just stepping up, just such great efficiency of movement as well. He's not running all over the place. We know, everybody knows where Shaiko plays, in basement, on Clubhouse. He plays by the generators in blue. We see that. And then, you know, even when he's picking up his other kills, coming into armory and playing by boxes there, he's maybe 20 feet away from his starting position. You know, very little movement required from him, just great positioning, great anticipation. Fabian picked up on it in the first game. I was watching, obviously, the game prior to this versus Pro and Wolves and the cast with Parker that they did together. And Fabian said, you know, at this level, one of the most important things is to be able to anticipate what your enemies are going to do. You know, where are they going to come from? Where's the likely positions? And Shaiko's just given us a masterclass in that. You know, if that's where they're going to push from, I know one's going to drop there. I know one's likely to come here. I don't need to move much. I'm just ready for the fight. And he's just absolutely won that round for BDS.
And this is going to happen more and more. Like I said, I want to see it to become more than that, but equally, I could get used to seeing Shaiko knock out 4Ks for fun. We'll see if, obviously, if Solotov wakes up back into this as well. His last couple of rounds have been very, very quiet. Really a tale of, I won't say entirely 2 players, but it has come down to him and Shaiko dragging his team through a couple of different rounds so far. At 2-2, it's hard to see where the line sits between these 2 teams. Here we march, though, with this third site that we mentioned earlier on, this Cash and CC setup. generally with Nello on side here, you're looking at this and just saying, right, that east wall is guaranteed to be opened. So then the question turns to where else are they going to control? Do they want to get control of garage, or do they want to look for themselves to get control of construction and work their way across? And knowing where Shaiko likes to set himself up, Tim, inside of construction, I don't think I want to take that part of the map.
No, Tyrant very concerned about moving into basement there. It looked as if there was a bit of information to suggest that there was a player down there on the bottom floor. We did see Lems previously playing down there in the last gym and bedroom round, but it's Renshiro who's actually moved underneath. But his timing could be fantastic here, Des, because Tyrant's been there, done that. He's going to come away saying, no, there's nobody really down there. And now Renshiro's flirting with the idea of potentially moving through. I think he's concerned about taking down the barricade and the sound giving him away. So he's headed back up blue stairs for the time being. But Renshiro, I think, has just been a little bit slippery there and not picked up. Definitely one to keep an eye on as this round goes on.
I mean, if he manages to get like a nade in from below, that's pretty mega to find out. Shaiko, who of course has been again sat around construction for the most part. But here I think he's just waiting for someone to get a little bit casual, a little bit too mobile, and pick them off as they step into the wrong position. Maybe someone looking for a C4 from below, for example. The sort of thing that you'd see orchestrated. He's hoping to find a Lems, but as of yet, it's simply not happened. It's this constant dance around the basement player and the Hunter, who has been a couple of different players across these rounds, but once more, it's just waiting for them to emerge.
They've got 8 drones on side of MNM, so I would expect plenty of information on their part. But Tyrant, a couple of times I've looked, and he's cutting down angles, he's cutting down rotates, but his movement suggests he's almost like coiled, ready for a fight, as if he thinks, you know, somebody might be there, somebody might be coming. But it's never really the case, so I don't know how much of a grasp MNM have got on the positions of players around the map. They certainly haven't got the best grasp on Lems as he manages to find Nello. Tyrant gets picked up by the FNAT as well. That's just going to give his work position away potentially, but look at that from Nave. Steps inside and just takes Leakafat down with a beautiful headshot.
Leakafat would have seen his leg every day of the week there, so it's a little bit strange that he didn't pull the trigger in time to make that one work. Either way, we've had a couple of players in MNM sat on this ground floor, just holding angles, waiting for Renshiro to surface. He does finally do so. Red indicator in front of his face, but not enough to see him finished off here. But again, they've been holding these angles forever. 2 players in MNM now hitting the deck. And really, Renshiro, I feel, has done a lot of the right work here. He's drawn time away. There's 5 seconds to go. The players on site are down. Users is going to charge in and see what he can find, but it's a 3K at the end there for Shaiko. A couple of finishes off on the down. The demon of Clubhouse strikes once again.
BDS, like you say, playing that well. It in the last 20 seconds, you could have been forgiven for looking at that and thinking, you know, that MNM were in a good position to take that. But, you know, I think realistically, BDS in comfortable control of the areas of the map that they needed to be for the majority of that. As I said, I'd be interested to watch that round back in a little bit more detail and just see exactly who MNM had picked up on drones, you know, who they should know was where. Because, like I say, they were a number of times just sort of playing it very tentatively, but more from a point of view of it looked like they were expecting a fight to come that never did. Ultimately, they did manage to pick up Renshiro towards the end, but he just, I think, had caused that nuisance, had caused that lack of certainty throughout the round, and they allowed it to dominate them too much, really. So BDS 3-2 then. They take 3 rounds in a row. They're going to head into gym and bedroom for their final defence here. And a 4-2 half, I don't think will be the best start for MNM when BDS move on to the attack.
Absolutely, it's... That second half, you quoted it earlier, Tim. A wise man did once say there are 2 halves to a game of Siege, and I've got no idea.
I can't remember who it was.
No, me neither, mate. But I just know it's an old wise man somewhere. He's been around a good few years.
Definitely getting older.
I mean, I'd hope so, Tim. Time doesn't exactly go backwards for any of us. Except Shaiko just constantly seems to be winding back the clock and just getting better and better with every shot. No one really seems able to keep up with him for the most part. But you are right, gym bedroom to close things out. Now, for MNM, last time we've seen 2 flavors on this site so far. One where they've just absolutely ran over BDS from Jacuzzi, from the west side of the map, and one where they've lost 3 players just trying to get control of Cash and CC. Now, you're seeing 3 players from BDS out on the roam. Shaiko, you could probably call half a player here in construction. He is peripheral. He's right next to the site. He's in the perimeter of the site rather than actually being on it itself. But we do have 2 players out in Cash and CC looking to slow down MNM, pick off drones, for example. But it feels like the Marshmallows have read this one and said, look, we had so much more effect going direct towards site. Let's just go for the same thing again. And here, Jacuzzi's going to get opened up. They're going to start their workout on this side of the map. and those out towards that far east side of the map really aren't going to get much involvement here.
Yeah, I like that they're not overcomplicating it and they're not playing into what BDS are doing so well, which at the minute is Shaiko in any position he's in, which you know he's going to be in construction because that's where he plays on this site. So Shaiko will be in that position for the time being. Leakerfact not as aggressive as he was last time. We saw him pushing onto that gym door. This is going to be an important moment though. They're looking to try and force Shaiko out of construction now by opening that wall. It's just going to make it a little less certain for him to stay in there. Lems is on low health as well. So MNM are like this. They're applying pressure everywhere. Lodge, they're applying it through to construction. They've opened Jacuzzi hatch. Below with the nades. Below with the shots. As Solotov picks up what little Lems had left on his hit points. Bar, but Leakerfight destroys him with a headshot in return. And BDS are looking a lot more comfortable, Des.
Yeah, I mean, Leakerfact's here in a spot that he should never be allowed to get in. Tyrant's coming up behind. Is there any read? Yes, there is. Leakerfact looking the right way, but I think he was caught mid-reload there. But the Demon still stands. Shaiko opens up the scoring and wanting to use this as well. It's a 3v2 with about 40 seconds still to play. MNM have got to make something happen here, Tim.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, at the minute, the top and bottom of it is they're getting Shaiko'd. They're 13-3, and he is just absolutely running over them. But the danger that I see as well is that other members of BDS are stepping up around him. And whilst there might not be too much room when Shaiko's killing everybody, you're not going to put up huge numbers. But Leakerfact there, for example, really important kills in the mid-round and hitting those shots, just really flipping it when it could have been. Solotov gets the opener onto a Lems, and all of a sudden the round sort of starts, you know, falling into this state of flux. But no, Leakerfight, bang, picks up Solotov, then picks up one on the breach as well. Just a really important double in the mid-round just to completely wipe off that opening kill that Solotov had got. So that's pretty dangerous for MNM here because it's not all about Shaiko. There are others stepping up as well, and BDS looking good in the last 4 rounds at least.
There's so many times that you'll see a player drop like 20 kills on a map. People say, oh, well, he's had a life game there. That'll never happen again. You can't really call it a life game with Shaiko because it seems to happen every other week at the minute.
No,
the guy's an absolute menace. And here again, 13 kills after 6 rounds, averaging more than 2 a round. Like, it's almost like starting the round and suddenly 2 players are just taken off the board anyway. He is so difficult to control when he's having a day like this. And MNM, unfortunately, have found him waking up on the right side of the bed.
And history suggests that generally that snowballs as well. You know, he doesn't tend to slow down. If anything, it gets worse and worse as the game goes on because he starts feeling his shots, he's comfortable, and it just gets harder and harder to control. Let's see, from MNM's perspective, if the switch of halves can just slow things down a little bit. I mean, Shaiko on Ash looks like a terrifying prospect if you ask me. But, you know,
any operator's name in that box, Tim.
Eminem may well look at it and just think, you know, you've got that change of energy, you've got that change of onus, you know, who has to take the onus, who has to get things going. In this case, it's now BDS. They're the ones who are fighting against the clock, so maybe that'll just slow things down a little bit and work into Eminem's favour.
I've got to give a shout out to someone in chat, by the way, after 5 rounds, asked, what's the best of 3 kill record? They just see him start popping off a few kills and already the question's being asked. And that's if we even get towards 3 maps as well. Again, it's looking like a tough day at the office for MNM. However, we could see Cafe be a very, very different affair. Back in the old days, of course, that used to be a permaban really coming out for the team of BDS alongside Villa, which they absolutely despised, whereas lately seem to really have warmed up to Cafe and want to keep on going back to it.
Just going to be sending the drones down, BDS. Just trying to still gather that information, but not finding anything really too much of use at the minute. So we go about the other standard tactics, the other standard activities that they need to be undertaking, which is going to be ripping up those floors and deleting as much utility as they can. In goes the RAM device sent in by Leakerback and a second. So that's going to be Kitchen pretty much shredded.
Something else that is, Tim. Those gadgets just do so much. It's absolutely bonkers. But more than enough control established. Full vertical open up here as well. And the beauty about the gadget as well, in case you're thinking, well, why not bring Sledge, for example? Obviously teams often do, as you're seeing here. BDS for a team that would normally employ things like Buck, but here I just think it's the safety that you get. You aren't really having to expose yourself. Buck is kind of safe as well, but ultimately gadgets are always going to be far more safe when it comes to getting things opened up without being C4'd in from below. Now, to give it over to MNM, they've done a good job here where they gave up a lot of map control early, but every single player is still alive, and BDS look a little bit light here in terms of what they can bring to the party. The drop comes in, he sees the backpack. Breede's in a default plant position, but I don't think he's got the support that he needs. Gets pokeballed out by Nath. 2 more still left alive for BDS, but again, MNM are a fortress on this downstairs site, Tim.
Absolutely. That is exactly the response they wanted. I said at the switch of the half, you know, maybe that change of energy just helps them to lift the momentum. BDS had 4 back-to-back. Shaiko was looking electric, and you just think, is this going to turn into one of those days where BDS just runs over you and it ends up 7-2, 7-3? The fact that they've been able to come in and lock down not just the defense, but a flawless defense is going to help massively for MNM. It's going to just really jam the brakes on the runaway train that BDS were becoming and just really slow things down. So great first round for MNM there. They had the answer to absolutely everything BDS tried. BDS stalled out a little bit, I think. They never really got to that final execute confidently, as you say. You know, Breede in position, but just no real support, not really much that he could do from there. So that's going to move MNM on to their second defensive site, which is going to be CCTV and Cash. I'm interested to see what BDS do with this on the attack. Do we have the textbook breach and catwalk push, or are they going to work in from construction side?
Those are the big questions. We'll find out very shortly, I imagine, in the next 30 seconds or so. I'm keen to see exactly how it plays out too, given the fact that on the downstairs, of course, it can be a little bit of a fortress. You know, BDS really centered everything in that round around the kitchen itself, which made the job quite easy for MNM, just to sit at range, hold their angles, and wait for BDS to try and make the execute work. And sure, BDS managed to slip the web a little bit, but we saw the exact outcome of that. Bunch of Pokeballs tossed his way, in which case the one from Nath was enough to finish the job and catch him and put him on the utility belt. Onwards, though, we go towards this east wall to kick things off. Breede on the Maverick again, so good at getting this east wall opened up, regardless of what might be positioned there. And then the question, as you said, will be where do they go to next? Is it construction side? Is it more towards garage? Given the relative quiet in towards garage so far, maybe we'll see the change here with drones coming on through, but I think you're going to see construction being worked here by BDS.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. There is a presence. You can see Leakerfact Shaiko up on the roof and over that side of the map. Like you say, normally if you were going for that breach-sided push, you want breach, you want catwalk, you want lounge locked down. So you'd already be looking to have some sort of impression towards garage for the time being. But that hasn't really been the case. Tyrant's had a quiet round of it so far, as has users who's supporting him just on those small steps. So I think at this point, MNM need to be having that discussion within the team, saying, look, you know, there's not too much aggro coming in towards garage. Let's keep our eyes on construction because we think we're going to have some attention over there.
Absolutely. I mean, all shall be opened up in just a moment. Breede having a little bit of trouble with this one. Number of times you see players try and get away with this and then someone shooting them underneath. It's absolutely horrific, but clearly he's just missing that little bit there that he's really having to expose himself to try and get open, and finally it falls away. Taking maybe a little bit longer than they'd like here to get into a good spot though, Tim.
I feel like MNM maybe have missed a bit of an opportunity there. Like you say, as soon as you start seeing that wall being burnt, the difficulty with shooting underneath that wall is there could always be somebody on the rappel. So it's a little bit of a dodgy one to expose yourself sometimes to. But an angle, it could have been a possibility. Lems does pick up users at the same time as Solotov misses a few shots. Leakerfact moves back across. I think a strange peak to take on there, knowing that you'd just been absolutely showered in bullets, and that now leaves Solotov on the flank. Shaiko going to have to be careful of that master bedroom door.
I think he wants to make his move. Oh, the timing! Honestly, the timing is unbelievable. Flicks onto Solotov like he's nothing, and immediately attention is back on the side. Doesn't know there's a man up close, and Nate finds himself one for free. Shuts down the demon of Clubhouse at 14 kills. It's absolutely ludicrous.
The problem that they've got now, MNM, is that the breach and catwalk are in the control of BDS. So there is an opportunity to get a plant down here, and it's Breede who's in the catwalk side. So he's in the right position to bring that diffuser in and get it active. Nath's in a tricky position here. If he holds his nerve, he might well just have some real joy. This utility that's going to be raining in, and it's as easy as that. He picks up Breede. How has he got away with that? Manages to get another, does he? No, it's Alemzu who finds him, switches to the Bailiff, does get the kill onto Renshiro and wins the round on time. BDS cannot not get the kills they need. And Nif, what a play. Sometimes you've just got to have the nerve, Des. You got to style it out. He just stands in that corner in front of the window, just near server, and BDS, they have no idea.
And that is the point I was about to make. They have no idea. And I don't want to call out individual players here when it comes down to it, but I'm going to do it. Why not? Renshiro had both of his drones still in back pocket there as they were coming in towards that last 30 seconds. And not a single one was used coming in towards the close. And you saw the exact issue. You have players vaulting in completely blind with no idea where anybody was. And it just led to a couple of free kills coming out, a lot of damage being splashed onto Renshiro himself. And really, at this point, 45 seconds in, if your job really to be sat holding an angle, for example, you can see him on the rappel. Get on the drones for a second, my son. Give your team a little bit of information, because you've just made it all too easy for Nath to dance around inside a site here and pick off a couple of players essentially for free. And really, dare I say, that has come back to cost them, not having the info on site. But great work by MNM, especially Nave, to always be hot on his feet there. Let's not forget, he got that first kill onto Shaiko, playing north of Cash Door, and then relocated down right in towards the south of the site itself without being caught by Renshiro, who was on the watch over the edge of the balcony. He's done a lot of work there and kept himself out of harm's way.
He's had some good performances lately, as Nathan, certainly stepping up today in what is turning into a very, very close matchup here on Clubhouse. This was, of course, Eminem's map pick. It will be followed by Cafe, which is BDS's map pick. And then if we do need a third, it will be Skyscraper, which, honestly, just get me to Skyscraper, because it's going to be a hell of a decider. Both of these teams are great on there, and it'll be an absolute war. I always prefer that. I always prefer a decider that is the best map for both teams, arguably, rather than one of the worst. You know, that they just sort of leave and don't pick. But no, they've both gone somewhere that they love, and it could be a real firework finish for us. But we've got to get there first, and that's going to mean MNM getting themselves through what so far I think has been edged by BDS in terms of Clubhouse. But after the change of half, and with Nath and MNM getting themselves onto the defence, they are really flying at the minute.
They are. And the fact, even though it feels like, you know, although we're saying really it feels like it's edging towards BDS, I think that's because we've seen a couple of really flashy rounds coming out of Shaiko. You know, he's still got more kills than the entirety of the rest of his team combined at this point. That shows just how well he's been going. Whereas on the other side for MNM, yeah, sure, Solotov's had a great couple of early rounds. He's got some good entries coming in. But like I said last round, you've got Nave doing a little bit of work. Even Tyrant and Yusuf's getting involved in some of these mid-rounds as well. And this is why I was a little bit nervous about the whole hero play thing that I spoke about earlier, is it'll be a team effort that gets these games over the finish line, in my opinion. Nave strikes again, his second kill in the round, completely unfound. And BDS, they're basically out of drones at this point, and they've got no way of hunting this Solis down, and he is punishing them for it.
Yeah, he really is. He's just run around, you know, completely free, essentially. Right. They've just not been able to really make any challenge onto him. It's up to Elems and Breeder to try and close this out. There is 2 down on the side of MNM, so effectively that leaves us in a 2 versus 3 at the minute. They're no more than sort of static cams as it is, but that is probably going to be the round-defining moment as Users takes down Elems, leaves Breeder in a 1 versus 4 as Solotov has been picked up in the midst of all that as well. Does pick himself up a nice kill, but I think at this point it's likely to be impactless. Yeah,
BDS probably want that tactical timeout they didn't speak about earlier on here as well. It's been a couple of times they've been pretty much stonewalled out by the side of MNM, who does feel, as you've said, you know, they're playing into this and not just even anymore. They pulled themselves ahead as well as a result of just completely shutting things down. But for me, again, it's I don't want to say a lack of information, but the information game really is where BDS were falling short. Halfway through the round, 8 drones dead. No one really able to give information or call-outs to those trying to make an entry into the map in the first place. And Nash running around like an absolute maniac, picking off a couple of kills for free. They've really got to sort out that drone game here and stop MNM being able to run around so free or leaving themselves blind because they're not making use of that utility properly. And the thing is, BDS are not a bad droning team. We've seen them be excellent with their info game. Almost oppressive that it feels like you're playing against 6 or 7 players sometimes with the way that BDS can play. But MNM are just wriggling through the holes in the defense, in the attack, here, and tearing them apart. This could end up being an MNM map.
It's been very all or nothing so far that we've seen. So you had Eminem come in and take 2 rounds, BDS took 4, and now Eminem have taken 3 in a row. There is very little back and forth between these two teams at the minute. And BDS, well, they're going to need to find some back and forth. They need to get around here. They haven't taken an attacking round yet. They've lost the last 2, and things could be, sorry, the last 3 rounds, and things could be getting tricky for them if they get another round going towards Eminem, because I just feel like once Eminem on the defense get that map point opportunity, I can't see BDS fighting back from that at the minute. Eminem have just been a different beast on the defense.
They have, yeah, and again, really a team effort overall as well. Obviously, Nello falling a bit short, but playing on the hard support role, a bit of a different conversation. And Tyrant was in the right spot, just I don't think fully aware exactly where Leakifat was. He was more out towards the wooden slats or towards the stacks that were out towards the west side, not really looking in towards Tunnel, for example. Even Leakifat's being quite conscious of it, seeing those bullet holes. You never know who's going to show their face.
Quenchiro working his way across that mid floor, just opening up the angle towards Stock. Again, just have I don't know whether maybe a little bit of a sound call or something that potentially was somebody in that area. He certainly had a little quick look and a check, but nothing to write home about. They're going to continue the drone in, then doing much better without the Solace on side. Still 8 drones active for them at the minute, so definitely should be a better idea for BDS of what's going down on this basement. The problem is, last time Eminem defended this, it was a flawless round, and BDS did exactly what they're doing now. They went in, they opened floors up, they, you know, followed all the steps that you would expect, but they just couldn't get a kill.
He was after a goo mine then that he couldn't see? I thought maybe it was a Fenrir gadget, but obviously there's no Fenrir on the defensive side, so wasn't 100% sure what it was that he was after there. Maybe it was the beeper actually from Solotov that he just couldn't quite get the angle on, and the Ash round would have been enough to clear that one away. But again, Eminem are just dug in so well and making this so difficult, and BDS look a little bit uncertain. They'll sit and drone something out 2 or 3 times. They'll back and forth, and not really commit towards the push. And we've seen teams get really stuck with this historically, where they don't really believe in themselves enough. I believe it was old Empire actually who said this. Obviously now most of those players on VP, but they were really historic for this, over droning essentially, and really not trusting themselves to make a go of things. BDS here have got no choice but to try and pull the trigger. Tyrant goes down, so suddenly those flashes in the back pockets of Breed LMs, they come online.
That's big, and BDS know it. They've just seen on the drone, just watching for the man coming across. There's nothing LMs can do. A little bit of a panic throw there. I think he was just rushing, trying to do something about that situation. But Leakifat is in position to deal with Tyrant once he was picked up. That leaves us 5 versus 4. 30 seconds left to go. BDS need to move.
This is what I mean, Tim. They're stalling out a little bit here as well, and you've still got to work your way through another smoke coming out from Nello, plus the goo mines you might run into, plus a couple of impacts. There are so many tools here for Eminem still to work with, and Shaiko finally says enough is enough. Drop is in, and he's trying to find his man, but simply cannot find him. Eminem have found everything they need in a very lethargic looking BDS. They get punished. Eminem stands strong. They're up to map points him.
Wow, it's like we've had 2 different sides in the server for BDS. We've had the side that were just able to casually blitz through 4 rounds in a row, and now this one that, like you say, look, a little bit lethargic, a little bit out of ideas, unable to get themselves in and be effective in the site there, having to just come down to taking a drop and hoping they can pick up a gunfight or 2. You know, we commented on Shaiko's numbers towards the defense. He's only picked up 2 kills on the attack, I think, maybe even just 1 actually. I think he finished defense on 13. So BDS calling a timeout, and probably not a moment too soon, Des. If anything, maybe a moment too late.
I think a few moments too late, really, Tim. Yeah, this is something I thought they should have seen earlier on. And you touched on the fact again that it's all been really Shaiko in those earlier rounds that's got them a couple over the board. You know, the quad kill that we saw, a couple of 3Ks in the mix as well. If you take away those big plays coming out of Shaiko, BDS probably have 1, if not no rounds on the board, and it has just been all Eminem otherwise. So this is why you can't rely on the one player. I know Shaiko's an absolute beast, and yes, there have been games historically that he has dragged his team through regardless of how everyone else is performing. But when it comes round to big decider games like this for that spot at the major, the other team, they'll be at that level. They'll know what's on the line as well. They'll be performing, and you are seeing a team performance coming out of Eminem.
CCTV then could be our final sight if Eminem are able to lock this down. BDS, of course, taking that tactical timeout, and let me tell you, something special better have been said, because over the last few rounds, they've just really not been at the races here in this one, not been competitive at all, like, you know, as we said, compared to what we saw from them on the defence. So Eminem, you know, not to put it onto BDS either, that's because Eminem just haven't allowed them to play. They've absolutely stifled them. You know, they've had flawless rounds. They've had the answer to every question that BDS have asked, and they seem to have known what the questions were ahead of time. They really have been that on top of things on the defence. So we will see if this final round can get it done for them. The Frost coming along is going to help to prevent any Monty players. We won't have any. There's no Monty been chosen here, but of course the Monty up onto the catwalk can be a difficult one to counter, and in a difficult situation, maybe a team looks at it and thinks, it's a good way of getting a round done, but BDS didn't make that choice, but Eminem not to know that. One way or another, though, it is dealt with, and of course those frost mats will be placed elsewhere as well, and a snapshot on ankles at frightening speed sometimes when you're looking down an ADS.
Yeah, got to be careful here, LMs as well, just being chipped out. Trying to get quite cheeky underneath again as well. If you toss enough impact nades all at once here, you can do some real damage, and it's only real chip at this point, so they were hoping for more. What I will comment on, by the way, is that Iana ban coming in, the target ban from Eminem against Shaiko. Clearly, it is working. And at this point, it feels like BDS are a little bit shortchanged when it comes to nades on side as well. We've seen the sledge come along a couple of times, but without the Iana on side as well, where it feels like some players were just a magnet towards Shaiko's frag grenades. There's no such joy coming out for the side of BDS. Everything a little bit softer when it comes to their back pocket utility. And again, Shaiko somewhat neutered on the Ash here versus when he does get to play the Iana.
Solotov was able to tickle the toes of Leakerfact there, using one of his impact nades underneath the book as he pushed into logistics. But if nothing else, it certainly got Leakerfact's attention. And at halfway through the round, all he can do now is sit on main stairs and wait for information. The drone goes out ahead of him. He wants to find this kill onto Solotov, but he's not going to. Solotov winning that out, and that is very dangerous for BDS now. They've got a Solis on the loose, underneath, one impact in hand. That could be a real nuisance if they get an opportunity to put the diffuser down, and Users has got the backup with a kill onto LMs.
It's like LMs there just dropping off to go for a 1v1 downstairs, hoping to find Solotov, but they don't. He's not even against Solotov in that 1 versus 1. It's the Frost that he comes up against a Users, and it feels again like BDS are coming up against a setup that they've only just seen for the first time. They're losing drones everywhere. They've been absolutely terrorized by Solis in the second half of the game, and really looking like they're going blind into whether it's vaulting in towards site, whether it's trying to chase down roamers, whether it's the actual execute. Everything just looks empty, uninformed, uninspired, lethargic was the word I used earlier, and they are being deleted. But Shaiko, with a single HP to his name, has got all the chance here to make something happen, tries to find his man, but it's not going to happen. Brede to save it all against 4 also feels like it's not going to happen. And my God, if Eminem turned up the heat on the defensive side against BDS.
They really have. Eminem looking at their absolute best so far here tonight. We, you know, spoke about the potential for a 2-0 BDS. Well, Eminem said, nope, I don't think so, not tonight. They've come in strong, alert and dangerous against a BDS that looks certainly more like the BDS we saw in week 1 against G2 than the BDS we saw throughout the remainder of stage 2. Eminem, fantastic opening win on Clubhouse, and that puts them 1-0 up in our best of 3.
Absolutely does, and a wise man once said, Tim, 2 halves to a game of Siege, and you've just seen that in the performance. I think I'm with you. Shaiko only getting 2 kills.